mental health in the creative world is often overlooked. Siguro in the corporate world, mas tanggap natin kasi diba, parang deadlines and all. But the creative world, parang people actually distress by doing creative work. Diba? Magpipaint muna ako para makakalimot ako ng stress. Pero what if day in, day out, your work is to paint and to design? And you are always called to be always innovating. You always have to be inspired to make new designs. And you have to sell those products so that you can make a living. Diba? It can be a pressure. And sana that's something that we can unpack for our viewers is this episode.
For those who are new here, Common Room PH is a shared retail and digital space for over 200 Filipino makers and artists. If you're looking for unique locally made products, we have branches in Power Plant Mall, UP Town Center, Alabang Town Center, Ayala Malls, Manila Bay, and the Atrium of Makati.
So I'm really thankful for our guests. So first off, we have Kat Triviño. She is the co-founder of MindNation, and she's also the Chief Product and Data Officer for that company. If you guys are not familiar with MindNation, they are a local group, but you also have diba? Companies outside.
We started in the Philippines and now we're global.
Okay, so they started out here in the Philippines, but they actually are global now, and they offer mental health and well-being services like teletherapy, 24/7 coach, and well-being coaches. Actually, nakilala ko sila because back when I was still in corporate, we have MindNation. So they are one of our partners. So for the things na hindi ko kaya na tulungan yung team ko, I'll always refer them to MindNation. And before Kat was in MindNation, she was also in corporate. So it's interesting to see yung story mo transitioning from doing corporate work and now full-time doing MindNation. And we also have Alan. Day by day, he is a group creative director, agency. So medyo gets namin ang galawan ng agency life. But by night, he actually writes. Meron kang book na you're trying to publish by August, right?
Yes, I am trying to publish it by August.
Finishing, and he also designs. But ang pinaka-interesting is, on top of his advertising and writing creative projects, he just finished your certification as
Expressive Arts Facilitator.
interesting nun. So I want to see how yung mga insights and learnings mo there is something that you can apply in your creative work and your agency work and in the creative community. So let's start off first. May question for Kat. So before MindNation, you were leading some of the most iconic brand campaigns here, diba? As your role in marketing. And then, matagal ka rin nag-marketing, right? How long were you doing that?
Actually, since I graduated, so a little over 11 years in corporate and marketing.
Corporate, so 11 years. And then all of a sudden, you left that world behind. And then you co-founded MindNation. Can you tell us more about that shift? Like, what was the turning point in your career, in your 11-year career? And a very successful one at that. So,
Thank you.
yes.
I mean, sometimes I wouldn't call it that, but that's usually how we are with a lot of our work. I would say, and a lot of people would say it's long overdue, that shift. For the longest time, I had loved and thoroughly enjoyed being in corporate. And that was something that was passed on to me by my father and even my grandfather. And being in marketing was something that, for growing up in corporate marketing to be exact, it's something that I thought was going to be the end goal for me. I loved the competition. I was in telco also, and then fast food.
Makaka-relate tayong tatlo, parang same yung mga pinanggagalingan.
Exactly. So parang sabi ko, I love this competition. I love like being able to feel that I'm rising the ladder and that there's this end goal for me of awards, of like something that I thought would make me feel good and happy. But it was through that journey also that slowly but surely I felt quite disconnected to it also. I left during the pandemic and I was actually even hesitant to even do that shift because a lot of people were losing their jobs, and there were a lot of people at that point had been laid off. So sabi ko, parang who am I to suddenly quit and start my own thing in the middle of pandemic and being uncertain. But because of that personal push, it felt like it was so undeniable that I really had to take this next step. And there were so many signs that were pointing to it that I had to just take the plunge and do it for myself. And at that time, I had put together both my corporate work and starting MindNation. And I did that together and side by side as well with NGO work. I was helping, I was diving, I was doing cleanups, I was volunteering. And during the pandemic, I was also heavily volunteering for food and meals. And that made me so much happier. And that gave me so much more purpose that every day I'd wake up that, oh, I want to be able to do that. I feel good about doing this. And I'm also making money out of it. So sabi ko, told my boss, okay, I'm sorry. I might have to leave. And one of the best things that he had told me at that time when I was doing kind of an exit interview was that he's like, and this is from a big company. Yeah, I think this is too small for you. I think we're holding you back. It's like, oh, really? Okay, sige, I'll go. And then I left and I moved. And I wouldn't say that it's always happy and fun and all roses, but to this day, I'm very happy to have been able to do that shift.
Why focus on mental health? Bakit dun, of all the things, dun ka nag-shift?
I mean, a lot of people now, when they ask me about MindNation, they ask if I'm a psychologist. I'm not. It's just a very lived experience that I had felt that the lack of mental health care at that time, and it was so recent, it was 2018, that I was also going through my own mental health journey and challenges. I had gone through so many layers of challenge there where I thought that because I was not coming off naman from a bad family, I had a good job, I had things going for me, I was winning awards at work, that I thought I didn't have the right to have poor mental health. In that journey of trying to look for healing, it was kind of, I wouldn't say too late. Too late is when you fully give up. But I had felt I was in a place already where I needed professional support. And at that time, it was so hard to get the right support. It was so expensive. I had to be like, this therapist that I was recommended to was in the NBI, and I felt like I was going by the presence. I felt like I did something wrong every time I was going to therapy.
And there's something wrong with you.
Exactly. And then it would feel terrible, and I'd feel like dehumanized. And even at work, it was something that I wasn't allowed to talk about. And even with my family, even with my friends. And that's when I felt that kind of disconnect where this should be the priority, just as much as we take care of our physical health. It's all interconnected. And I started, the original idea was actually an NGO to give it for free. But I love the whole problem solving part. I think that's why I thrived a lot. Yeah. That's one of the things that I loved about being in corporate. Like, I just need to take a step back. I need to do some sort of like SWOT analysis. What's going on here? What's wrong? This is the weakness. This is the threat. This is my opportunity. And I loved looking at that opportunity, that I knew that I wasn't the only one. And thank goodness, I had the right therapist who was kind of guiding me as well and helping me uncover that. And it became part of my healing, that because I wanted to solve this problem, I wanted to take care and look into different things. I even tried different religions. I was studying because I felt like if everybody's praying and everybody's telling me to pray, maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe I'm not praying to the right one. I don't know. So I was trying different things. I was like on this crazy path to trying to heal, and trying to heal in the fastest way, that I found out that it was really more often than not a systemic issue, that in the workplace, it's something that should be prioritized. A lot of people couldn't afford it. And it should be a benefit, especially in places like in the creative industry where your mind is really yun yung source of your work and your passion. It should be something that you take care of. So we turned it into a business. We wanted to group psychologists together. We talked to a bunch of experts, and then we started offering it to corporations.
And sobrang helpful kasi sa totoo lang, parang totoo yung sinabi mo na it's so hard to look for access. Tapos, and it's so expensive, like how much a session is. Tapos biglang, yung first session mo, hindi kayo parang jive, no? And then you have to look for another one. So, I was actually at the receiving end of the things that you've been doing for MindNation because it's first-hand experience with my team and with me also because I've attended your talks, I've attended the teletherapies. So, ang ganda lang na from a place of naghahanap ka ng way to heal yourself, you actually found a way to help more people. So, ang ganda. Ang ganda lang. Kasi parang, alam mo yun, parang instead of sinolo mo siya and then you try to find a way to help you, parang you shared more of yourself but to give support to more people.
I think that's what purpose does. When you find something that really resonates with you in your craft and in something that you love doing, it really has a ripple effect towards other people.
And ang ganda na yung skills mo from corporate. Like, na-transfer mo siya to helping build something that's more meaningful and helpful for a lot of people. So, kudos talaga for all the things that you've been doing. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Talo naman tayo sa'yo, Alan.
Oh, no.
Kasi bagong-bago, fresh na fresh kang graduate sa iyong, can you tell us more about the course that you took, why you took it, and what was your goal? Like, ano yung inintend mong matutunan from that course and how do you plan to apply it?
I won't be the best advocate for the whole thing yet, but I took a course called the Expressive Arts Facilitation course under Magis Creatives. I learned about it during I went to Tago Jazz. And a friend of mine brought her cousin and she said, oh, I just took this workshop. And then she said it's something like a trauma-informed arts for wellness. Now, what is that? What does that mean? And it's more, and as we talked about it, it's using the arts to solve mental health concerns. And so is it therapy? Is it like medicine? Is it psychology? Is it crystals? So I thought, but the T word, trauma, really got me into it. Parang, sige, let me try that. And I applied. And it's been a whole year. And I graduated. And I learned. So basically, it's exactly what I thought it would be. You're just going to be given the basics of how to make art. And that's the structure to help you get through some mental health concerns. Now, it just depends on the practice of the person or the facilitator on what kind of modalities, we call them as modalities, to apply sa strength niya or sa population. I got attracted to it because I've been making books for the longest time. But when people ask me, can you teach us how you do it? I always say, their course, I always say, get this guy's course. You'll learn a little bit more because they seem to be better writers than me. I didn't know what the proper structure was because my training is theater. I trained in improvs, acting back in college. So it's like if actors go on stage and you improvise on stage, I improvise while writing. And I didn't know how to teach that. Like, I can tell you that in 10 minutes and you just go do it. So I didn't know how to, and since somehow when I create my books, whatever issues I had during personal issues or professional issues, they have no choice but to surface in the writing and in the book. And somehow, I'm not going to say I'm going to be a better person after the book, but it's more like, oh, I'm a little bit more aware of what kind of person I am and what I need to be. And even in that idea of awareness is what I think is the benefit of going through the type of art making that I do. Just that awareness really helps. And it's a way to like process different things in my daily life at least. And sa work naman, I think it helps me understand how to put my team in a state of play. I don't know how other creatives function, but if I go all the way back to when I was young, anything that I'm creating is always from a play mindset. When they ask me, so what do you do? How do you create? How do you put people there? What do you do during your brainstorming sessions? In internally, most of the work I do happens before the brainstorm. It happens before the clearing. Means you have to be mature enough to it's not going to be about you, Alan.
It's not your
It's
ideas all
it's
the
not your
time.
ideas all the time. You're here to make sure they're in there. They get to play for just even if the deadline is in 6 hours, you have 4 clearings to go through. The mood I try to bring into a meeting, I try, because sometimes if I fail at it, is I try to distract them from the work and just get them to a place of, let's just talk. We will find the answers through questions that aren't even related to the work. And then somehow it gets good ideas out. Going through the expressive arts course also helped me put a little more structure to what I do.
How do you see yung learnings mo from that course? Like, elevating or changing the way you attack your creative process?
Personally, I think it gave it a little more framework. What I tell people of how I do things is I make through the work. So so during the pandemic, for example, if I have so many thoughts I can't figure out, I have so many issues, I write through it. I try not to look for ideas outside of what I'm feeling. No, that's it. Whatever you've got, work with that. There's sometimes I'm approached by people like, how do I get inspiration before I do the writing or I do art? Now you just start. You do the thing, you do the ugly bits while you're making it, and then you'll get to that place. I know it's a weird analogy, but I think this is the first time I'll say it siguro out loud, but I try to look at how athletes do it. Whatever tournament they're gonna go to, most of the preparation happens before. So if you're gonna be running in 10 days, maybe you run today. So I think that's it. To get to that mindset for the tournament or for the meeting, you start writing ideas, start thoughts, and then let it grow out of that. It's just that sometimes nakaka-debilitate yung thinking because we reward thinking so much. So I should be thinking all the time.
Actually, curious ako, sabi mo na parang you're always thinking na parang kailangan your output mo is based on your ideas, di ba? And siguro a lot of our makers or creatives, di ba, rely on their creative ideas, their inspiration to create the work that they do. Pero yun nga sometimes wala ka sa mood, di ba? And sometimes kahit wala ka sa mood, wala kang inspiration, kailangan mong maglabas kasi meron kang collection na kailangan tapusin. Tapos yung collection na yun, yung bubuhay sa'yo, magbabayad ng bills mo for the end of the day, or yun yung magbabayad sa payroll ng team mo, diba? Parang a lot of it would rely on you always being inspired and always be creating something, innovating or problem solving, diba? And sometimes, nakaka-pressure siya kasi what if wala? Diba? What if ubos na ubos ka na? And I think, siguro, question ko for you, Kat, in terms of your experience with MindNation, and you talk to different industries altogether, di ba? How do that pressure to always be productive, to always be on your A game, how does the stress and the mental load of being 100% all the time, like, affect different industries?
Siguro I'll start with the general data that we have. We've been monitoring it since we started during the pandemic. And a lot of people think that during the pandemic, when they got to actually sit down with their thoughts, that's the only time that they started having mental health issues. But it's not true. We've been in this global mental health crisis for the longest time because that's always been the stigma. That they think that once in a traditional setting, especially in corporate, you think that once you step in the doors of the office, all your personal things should be not part of this. Like, work is work, and you're being paid by the hour to just focus on work, focus on thinking, focus on being productive, right? And it adds so much stress and anxiety. And so we had noted about 50-60% people feeling stressed, anxious more than half of the time, especially when they're at work, and contributing to as much as 2 hours every day. So that's, for example, you have 8 hours in a day of working. You have 2 hours that you're not productive. Maybe because of different things. You're there, physically there, or your mind somewhere else, or you're just absent. And since for the longest time, and I think many companies still don't have mental health leaves or wellness leaves. They just are absent because of SL, which is not exactly what it is. It contributes to the bottom line, and that's what we try to connect as the language for talking to business owners, that taking care of someone or your employees' well-being contributes to the bottom line, contributes to them being more innovative, better at problem solving, better at being team members, or better at being a team. And part of that is taking care of their mental health and really allowing them to take a step back and recuperate and rest so that they can be better team members. And especially for creatives. So I zeroed it in when I was looking into, because we have a bunch of industries, as you said. So this industry is encompassing even designers, for mga architects, anyone that's in the creative industry, even game developers are also here. And they noted that they actually experience about 6 to 8% higher stress, anxiety, and worry than the regular Filipino employee. And the number one stress source of mental health concern for Filipino employees is financial well-being. And for creatives, it's 12% higher than...
Damang-dama ko yung 12%.
Oo. 12% higher than Filipino employees. And that's connected to so many things. One of it is a very true reason that for many people, being creative and doing art is a way for them to disconnect. And that's kind of the myth of doing what you love. You never have to work a day in your life. You think that I'm going to be enjoying all the time. This is my day job. I can't be resting because this is my rest. But that's not true. And we need to understand that rest and taking care of yourself and even taking a step back or burnout, they're all very real mental health concerns that can happen to anyone. But it's especially true for creatives, that is, ito yung puhunan. So that's the thing we highlight with MindNation, that when you're taking care of yourself and when you're trying to be productive, rest is part of that process.
So we touched on the idea of burnout. I think regardless kung anong industry mo, anong company mo, anong age mo, or stage in your career, you will experience some sort of burnout. 'Di ba? Pero lagi nating naiisip kasi, hindi, tulog mo lang yan. 'Di ba? Parang burnout is something, tulog mo lang yan, by tomorrow ready ka na. But I think the first tip that we want to share with you guys is that burnout is a signal. Like, it's your body's alarm system to tell you to pause and give yourself the kind of rest that you need. Huwag niyong maliitin yung burnout na itutulog mo lang siya, because I think burnout is deeper than just being tired. So, maybe sa inyong dalawa, curious ako, how has burnout manifested in your day-to-day lives? In your careers or in your creative projects? What does it look like for you?
I think internally I feel like I'm a passenger in my head. So parang you're on autopilot and you're making decisions that don't seem to work. I think I remember when nothing is too much and everything feels like nothing's going on. So it's all your senses, you'll appear to be working. You're ticking the boxes of what it takes to be efficient and productive, but nothing clicks. So I think what I've learned from the course that I took was just this. I'm not good at the science of this because, but it feels like you're disembodied. You kind of lost yourself inside. Or you're just going through the motions of the work, but you're not really feeling anything. You're numb, and that's it. It's just days and days of being numb. I felt like I need to rest physically, and then 2 to 3 days of just recharging and replenishing whatever system I need to be at play, and then to put other people at play din.
Ang hirap sa position mo kasi you're a leader, diba? You're a CD also. So, people look up to you always for guidance, diba? Parang dapat, kung hindi sila inspired, ikaw yung makakagising nun sa kanila. Pero what if ikaw mismo yung wala dun? Sabi mo, you're disconnected.
I think, especially in the pandemic, I learned this term where, looks like, Alan, you're going to go through a parenting stage. I just learned this along the way. I mean, there are some things about our work which you're never really trained for. Especially when the pandemic hit, you realize if you want your teams to be at 100%, you have to be 120, right? well, that's how I felt. So in the meetings internally, I thought maybe if I put my cam on all the time and I make sure they hear me in my voice, they try to they can sense the excitement in the work while all of this is happening, it might help a bit. Because what's that movie again? Sa Saving Private Ryan, gripes go up, right? So you don't complain down. So they do it. They will ask, oh, Alan, kamusta ka na? My team is, everything's fine. Nothing wrong is going on. So we just joke through it. But I just wanted to show them na I'll do my part. But let's just get through the day. Let's make the work that we can. And when we're off work na, you go do your own stuff.
For you naman, Kat, are there instances na there are so many signs shouting at you na parang, need to rest, you need to take a break, but you're just either totally unaware of it or you're really ignoring it? Or
Yes, a lot. I'm gonna start by saying that burnout is actually a bit more than warning signals. It's actually like the whole building kind of crumbling already. It's not a fire drill anymore. It's like this is already what's happening, because the difference between being tired and being burnt out is tired. You can take the weekend off or you can take a whole week off, and when you get back, you're okay. But burnt out is like what he said. It's like you're not there anymore. Suddenly the things that you really love doing, they feel so disconnected to you. And it's more than tired, it's deeper than that. And even if you try to sleep it off, you wake up and you're tired pa din. And the problem with that is that it's really hard to get out of that rut. And more often than not, it does require a bit more professional help to fully get out of that. And I've experienced it twice. The first time was during corporate that I had mentioned, where I just kept going and going. I didn't mind a lot of things. I didn't take care of my relationships around me, with my family, with my loved ones, with my friends. I always felt like, no, it's okay, good time. Basta work, I'm okay, and I'm keeping going, and I'm being rewarded at work. That's fine, because that's my goal anyway. And I didn't care so much about resting, because I thought that I was enjoying what I do. And you do naman, pero parang when you get to that point already, when things feel disconnected, and a lot of the traumas that I've been having ever since childhood have been brewing there, you end up like just a volcano. You burst, and it seems like a point of no return. And I really had to take a huge step back from that and feel that and understand that I was really at the point burnout already. And there were so many signs that I didn't just mind. And so I took that step back. I moved to MindNation. I did all of this fully, and I was so excited and happy to finally take care of do things on my own time. Last year, I experienced it again. And this time it's even tougher, because I thought, I'm not supposed to feel this anymore, because I'm doing my own thing. I have so much purpose in life. People are telling me this and that. Why am I getting burnt out? But I had realized, and going again with my therapist, it's like that you actually do the things that I was telling you to do, to actually rest, to actually do this and that. No, it doesn't matter if you're saving the world or doing like something super amazing. If you don't take the time to rest, if you don't take the time to manage your relationships, to find space for creativity or inspiration, to do other hobbies, other things that make you a person, because you're not a one-track person.
you're not just your work.
Exactly. And humans aren't built to just be this one-dimensional thing. You have a lot of things that make you you. And if you don't take care of that, then you're really going to get tired and burn out. So, sabi ko, oh, okay. Okay, so what do? I don't know what to do. And I really had to make sure I was more mindful with the things that are causing me stress. And I know the signs already. Like, for example, I know when I'm pulling all-nighters, which is sometimes what's needed, my minimum is, I need 2. By the 3rd time, wala na. I'm gonna be like super angry na. I know that when I'm over-cleaning my house, there's something wrong. So, may little signs already. And that's the thing about mental health and taking care of yourself. You have to learn to understand and listen to your body. So when you're doing certain things that I know that you know already are forms of escapism or they're not helping you anymore, those are the signs. And those you should really listen to.
I think you touched on a very important note there. When you said listen, I think, and connected siya dun sa sinabi mo na disconnected ka sa sarili mo. Kasi if you're not listening to yourself, kahit hinahanap mo yung mga signs, if you're disconnected, you can't really pick it up eh. Parang it's like a language that you don't know how to read or understand. I think may ganyan din akong tendency na parang if I'm just like hyper-focused on something, alam mo na pumipitik na yung likod ko, tumitigas na siya, pero I'm just ignoring it. I'm just like, kaya yan. I'm just like slouching and stuff. And then all of a sudden, boom, ER. Meron ng disconnection yung spine ko kasi I'm always like that. Because it's been telling me, but I haven't been listening to it to the point na sumigaw na siya. Sumisigaw na siya and napa-ER ako. There was one time, I was telling Alan about it, na I went to a professional coach for leadership training and all. So I was telling him yung mga things na na-challenge ako with work. And then first thing na sinabi niya, you know, when you talk about like your challenges sa office, your posture is here like this. You're holding everything here. And then your breath, you're barely breathing. So you're like, ganyan ka lang, parang, you don't know how to open up. So parang, I think sobrang mga micro signals that your body is telling you na, may kailangan ako, you need to do something. But yung idea na we're so disconnected and we don't know how to listen. How do you go about sharpening that skill na listening to yourself, to what you really need? How can our viewers be better listeners to what they need?
I'll say in my experience, and after learning about how things work in our industry or how I see my personal practice, for example, I had to start and de-romanticize or de-glamorize creative burnout. You hear it in the war stories. 3 days kaya namin ginawa to, kaya nanalo. Trauma bond, di ba? And then it becomes a badge of honor to be tired and excellent. You push for something, and I'm not saying there will be, so under me there will be never of that. Sometimes there's a pressing need for work to come out that way. Great, let's do that. But there's also a way to prepare for that. And I think between that part where, okay, we all have to, all hands on deck, we need a 6-hour turnaround for a 9 a.m. presentation, for example. That should not be the norm, but we should be ready for that. And maybe for another conversation on how to get there, but I think if you're on your own, it's really about finding your personal practice on what is the health. This is hard for me to say because coming from a culture of, it's cool to be dark and mysterious and hurting inside to make art. Find the system and the kind of practice that makes you play at work where nothing really hurts as much. I'm not saying that, I'm not articulating that correctly, but I would just want, maybe if I could say it differently, what helps you play while you work? That's it. Because once you find that relationship, it's just you and the work, it's like, how do I write fun stuff while having fun in a fun place with fun people with fun food? Like what are all these things? And once you figure that out, okay, so this is my baseline. And then how do I build that out? So maybe at one time, okay, maybe no fun food and no fun time, but at least the mechanics of how you play. Once I learned that, it became easier to understand, okay, this is not the norm. We will try to evade this as much as we can. Because I also come from a culture where, I think our best work only comes when we go home at 4 a.m. Because it did appear like that at times. I mean, it does that. But
the midnight grind,
which can be fun.
Yeah.
But is it the only way? Perhaps there are other ways.
Ganun nun, sabi mo, the only way. Kasi I think for a lot of creatives, di ba, na-romanticize din the grind. the drive. Kasi parang, it's something that's so important for you, diba? It's something very personal. So, kailangan laging all out ka 100%, 100%. Ang ganda nung sinabi mo, maybe there's a kinder, gentler way of still getting to point B, but it doesn't have to be like, laging pagod at retret, diba? You mentioned, Kat, a while ago na when people think about rest, automatic parang you feel guilty na nagpapahinga ka. Kasi pag nagpapahinga ka, parang tamad ka or hindi ka seryoso sa ginagawa mo or you're slacking off. Diba? And coming from a very, sabi mo, competitive ka, diba? Like, how did you try to temper that drive? Na it's still there, pero hindi yung laging mauubos ka, lagi kang mag-empty in your tank.
I'm a very hard-headed person to the point that, honestly, even if I know, okay, therapy 100% works, I love it, I've gotten to a place where I am now because of therapy. But even until now, like, if I don't want to hear something and I don't want real talk, I'm not gonna go to the therapist. So, parang sabi ko, I don't want it. Just gonna say things that I don't want to hear, that I know I should do, but I don't want to hear it. What has helped me the most, apart from the therapist, and as much as we try to say, I'm going to be true to myself and listen to myself, a lot of us are very hard-headed. So we need people in the community that helps us stay accountable. So my friends, my family, even my partner now, they also know and see the signs when I'm not resting. And they're the ones that are just like, maybe you shouldn't do coffee. Maybe you should just drink water for now. And these are things that I don't notice. Na parang, why am I so agitated and anxious? Yun pala, coffee lang yung iniinom ko the whole time. And they're the ones that are noticing it. They're the ones that can tell me the truth. They're the ones that can tell me when it's time to take a break. And that's part of reworking old beliefs and behaviors that I had that sometimes I can't even say for myself. Now, when I am in a state of denial, when I'm in a state of like, I want to do what I want to do for myself, I want to eat the good food, even though I know it's not good for me, there are people who can help me stay accountable and can help me on the right track. And that's why a good community and good friends and good leaders come into play and are so important. And they have to be also leading by example. They were talking about this very strictly in Japanese culture, but it's also true here in the Philippines that sometimes you don't go home until the boss goes home.
You model their behavior.
Exactly. Na parang nakakahiya ka na mauna ka sa boss mo to go home. And it's apparent in many different ways. Parang, oh, my boss is doing an all-nighter, I should do an all-nighter. He does great work because he does all-nighter. And they think that that's that one path to being a good person, to being a good leader, to being a good contributor. But there's not just one path. And that's the system that we need to be reworking. That's so broken because it's contributing to really terrible mental health. So I do listen to myself. I try to make sure that I am the leader that I want to emulate for. I work with a lot of juniors right now. And especially in the space of mental health, I cannot, in my heart, let them stay overnight and just work on this campaign, even if bukas na. Really, if you really take a step back and think about it, there's nothing so groundbreaking that the world will end tomorrow that you have to submit that. If it's at the cost of your health and your well-being, then don't. It's easier said than done. And I think we say that from a place of privilege na it's okay if I take a step back, especially if you're a breadwinner. But little things and little signs and having that good community is important for you to be able to really get the rest and the support that you need.
A lot of it is also self-awareness. Diba? Parang sabi mo nga, aware ka na hard-headed ka. So you look to other people kasi parang if you're self-aware of your limitations and your kung saan ka magaling or yung mga tendencies mo, like you're hard-headed pala and all, parang somehow you can find a system like what you mentioned that can work with you. There's no one fit formula to taking care of yourself kasi at first, I think first and foremost is you need to want to take care of yourself. You need to be self-aware that there are things that you need to tend to. And then from there, pwede kang maghanap na iba-ibang ways to address that.
I think being accountable is important. when it comes to mental health and the struggle also with mental health is a lot of people, to your words also, they wear that as a badge of honor. I'm anxious, and it's very common right now with TikTok, mental health talk, that they wear it like I'm depressed, so everybody around me should support me and should just adjust to me. That this is my mental health concern, and that everybody else should adjust. You have to want to actually go beyond that and be better. That you have to want to heal for you to actually heal. Because there's nothing that happens if you just stay in that darkness. Sure, it gives you great emotional, meaningful work, but at the same time, what could happen if you're coming and you're innovating and creating from a place of light and healing? So don't stay stuck in your own diagnosis.
I think even what I like and what I can also say I don't like it is because things like this are actually things that make me accountable. So I hate being accountable. I hate this because now it's on video na eh. Because I can already imagine, oh, di ba lang sa interview nyo, you said, ayusin mo dapat the systems. Pero, di ba sabi mo ganito? But then that's how it is. I think I've also come to understand that not everything I need to do is something I will like. You need tension to be strong, or you need structure to keep moving forward. So I think the word tension is not really bad. I need it, for example, to just keep moving forward. For example, I realized, I'm going to be holding this class called Art Making for Stress. And I realized, but what if I am the source of stress, which I bet I am for some people. But then, sige, so how do I improve that? I can't just go into sessions like this and admit, I got through a class, I am better now, everything's gonna be great when you take my class. But, half of the stuff that we're trying to solve, I've already cost people as well. So this is sort of a way to I am certified to figure things out. Parang ganun yung gagawin natin. So that's it. This is my accountability thing. And it's hard because at a certain age, you just want things to work your way. For me at least, I think, because I've seen that as well for some people who are, older than me way back. But I think we are in a time and place where I don't think that works anymore. So if I try is the mindset here, where I try to be healthy enough and be aware enough to just be in a student mindset, to always be learning as much as I can. And it is tiring, and part of me really hates it, but personally it puts me in a better place than before, and I think I just hold on to that.
I mean, good stress doesn't always have to mean it's always bad. Like what you said, tension doesn't always have to mean it's a bad thing, because mental health is not always about feeling happy all the time. Yeah, it's okay. Yung sinasabi nila, it's okay not to be okay. There are moments where you have to feel sad, where you have to feel tired and drained. And good mental health is balancing that it's okay that I'm stressed. Because there's a good stress. Sabi mo na ng good stress ka. I'm the good stress. It's eustress. Eustress is a kind of stress that makes you feel motivated. It's like the first day on the job. You're stressful that you don't know how things are gonna happen, but you're excited. You're motivated. And it's that kind of stress that pushes you beyond what you think you can do. And that's good, right? It only becomes bad stress if it's chronic, that you're always afraid every single day to go back. And that's what you don't want. Diba? So,
that's what we don't want.
Exactly. We don't want, but we can't guarantee. Yes. It's up to you. Up to you.
Yeah, you mentioned kanina that sometimes we wear yung niratrat natin, inuti natin as a badge of honor, being tired and being exhausted, parang dami kong natumbang labada, diba? Pero on hindsight, yung rest, no matter how important it is to your productivity, people look at resting as something that you need to deserve it first, diba? So you need to deserve your rest. Or if nagpapahinga ka, you're not being productive, you're being lazy. And parang if magpapahinga ka, mapag-iiwanan ka. How do we help people have a better relationship with rest? It's actually a superpower. It makes you more creative. It makes you more productive in a healthier way. How do we bridge that gap?
A lot of people think that rest is a luxury, and that rest should be Instagrammable. that I have to be resting in LU, having my coffee by the beach. That's the best kind of rest. And I have to be able to take photos of it and do everything. It looks great. And a lot of times, rest is actually very messy. Rest is you just like sleeping in the darkness and just like crying and everything and just letting everything out. Rest can even be, there's also active rest where you go and do something that's out of the regular day-to-day thing. Maybe try a new sport. That's active rest. And it doesn't have to be something that's a formula. I cannot sit here and say, because my type of rest is also still working, which is weird. But that's why I'm
emails.
but it's doing a lot of things that make me feel happy. I'm taking a mental rest from mental health. I'm gonna go dive and take care of the environment. I also started doing jujitsu. I started competing, and those are rest for me. They make me happy because they make me excited to go back to. I know, and it doesn't have to be that productive. It doesn't have to be the same way for you. So understand that the guilt of rest and the guilt of taking care of your mental health is very, very real. It's absolutely normal. Even I, to this day, feel very guilty about taking care of my own mental health because I was like, you guys do it for you. You do it. I'm not gonna do it, but you do it. And I have to always keep reminding myself that I am at the best shape when I actually do take care of myself. And I have to always keep going back to that so that I can give myself the time and space. Not naman allow, just be okay with taking a step back.
Ikaw, Alan, how does rest look like for you?
I recognize that even just talking about rest is a privilege. I think I have friends and we know of people who cannot rest because it is ingrained in the way they are brought up that you need to be constantly working. And there are parts of me that I need to also like shut that part off because you are in a creative space, you should be glad you are being paid to play. Why do you need to rest? Rest is for really heavy lifting, really physical work. And so you live through, several years. Yeah, I'm not tired. This is just, a motivation what I'm feeling right now. And I think it's still something I haven't really cracked in terms of how to really talk about it. But if we're talking about how the relationship of rest and creativity, I think when you're tired, there are parts of you that shut off. And that means you can't be aware. So I need people to rest so they can be present in the work. I think the extreme part is that if you're not well rested, I just have 1% of my brain, only one brain cell working. Yes, we see that. So it might be a joke, but then that's because you're tired and you need rest. So for me, at work or when we're doing something creative, which is an output that needed, I try to say that find your relationship with rest as much as you can because you don't get an award for most well-rested kasi, di ba? You get for most creative, most hardworking, but until that day comes, you have to find that discipline. What does it take for you to rest? And the thing is, when you start doing that, there will be tension that comes up between you and your coworkers because you will demand it because it's already tough demanding it from yourself. Yeah. But when you figure that out, you will demand it from them. The next task is, and you have to, I think this is the part where it might be weird, is once you've demanded that you need to rest, then you prove to them, kaya maganda to, kasi nakapahinga ako. Now, how can we get more out of that? So that's the rough part. The decision for yourself, deciding for your teammates, and then like proving that, see, the more I sleep, the better work we get.
Yeah, and so sometimes kasi when you give yourself rest or parang a time to step back, parang nag-iiba rin yung POV mo eh. Especially for creatives, di ba? Like parang kailangan ko siya ma-solve. So, hindi mo nakikita na parang you're too close to it kasi you wanna finish it and parang you're driven, you're motivated to like finish that layout or finish that design. Pero, you're too close to it and sometimes when you're too close to it, parang wala ka na ibang nakikita eh. But when you step back, and actually like freshen up your eyes, step back, you see it in new light, and maybe that will give you like a more, parang, a different approach din. Kasi nakita mo siya from a different perspective eh. Maybe it's also important to consider rest as part of your creative practice. Na it's something you don't have to deserve. It's, una, tao ka, kailangan mo talaga magpahinga. Hindi ka robot, di ba? So kahit gustuhin mong mag-paint or mag-draw buong araw, like you have physical limitations, di ba? So maybe one way to look at it is make rest part of your creative process talaga. And ang ganda ng sinabi mo na there's so many different forms of rest. And maybe that's something that you can do, like find different forms of rest that fuel you in different ways and in different aspects of life na. Yes, there is the rest, as in literal matutulog ka na rest. Maybe rest looks like, you know, just being off your phone and just walking around. Maybe rest is also like joining a club or running. Kasi iba rin yung nagagawa ng physical activity, diba? So, if anything matitake away nyo dito, sana magpahinga kayo. Don't feel bad for resting. Kasi if you are well-rested, yung version of yourself that will come when you're ready to work, when you're ready to lead, when you're ready to grow your business is better and inspired and more like you have better clarity also, diba? So, sana isipin niyo na superpower siya, diba?
I don't know if it's still a trend, but self-care is something it's thrown around in a lot of ways. But one thing I've learned is self-care is actually, for it to work, it's a community effort. So, especially, I haven't figured it out yet for solo entrepreneurs, but in teams, I feel like rest is a team effort din. You have to recognize that, again, I'm trying to put things in place where when someone rests, everyone puts in a little 10% so that person can rest. So
Huwag mo nang kulitin ng...
Huwag mo nang kulitin masyado. Although, there are times na kailangan, but then bawi. Like, make sure that makakabawi din yung tao and that you are creating a system in place that everyone can work with. It feels bad because it's too personal, di ba? Even what I said kanina, what's your personal practice and rest should be a part of it. But if you're part of a team, everyone must understand that rest is also team effort. So, kasi work, di ba? Hard work, team effort. Pero pag rest, ako lang to. Ako lang to, guys.
Kayo mag-hard work,
Kayo
ako
mag-hard work,
mag-rest.
ako mag-rest. Pero no rest din, para ako muna, kayo muna dyan, then reliable tayo. I think that mindset just keeps people okay. At least while I'm sleeping or while I'm resting, someone's watching over my rest. Because everyone will be watching over the work.
Ang ganda na parang we have to be keepers of each other's wellness, di ba? Hindi lang it's not always a solo thing. We look at it as an individual thing, pero ang ganda naman.
The millennials now are leading, and Gen Z is already in the workforce, and the millennials are very aware. They take care of their mental health. It's good. It's good to have new leaders. We're pushing the old ones out. It's okay. But there are some that are a little bit more open to it already. Merong mga iba talaga that are still tough. I'm very proud to say that there are mga blue-collar organizations that work with us also. Manufacturers, the day-to-day ones. So we had to shift all our comms into Tagalog, which is great.
Yes.
It's step by step, but I'm really glad that it's moving towards that direction.
So from burnout, diba, we talked about how when you're so passionate about something, kasi you know that it's important to you, it's something that's meaningful for you, diba? Ang tendency natin is talagang go all out, 100% all the time. But there's also a saying na sometimes your passion also becomes your poison. If you let it run your life 24/7, diba? Parang sometimes you just get lost in the grind. And malaking bagay na kahit mahal mo siya, kailangan mo pa rin hiwalayin yung sarili mo sa kanya. And I think that's tip number 2. Kasi I think for a lot of small business owners, creatives, diba? They go into that profession kasi it's something that they're passionate about. Like, this is a family business. We started it from the ground up. I have my team. So, this is my life. And then for a creative naman, this is my vision. This is my artistic expression. Parang, kailangan matapos ko tong artwork na to because this is important for me. So, our tip is, like, sometimes your passion also needs boundaries. I want to ask you, Kat, about it kasi you do so many things and your work for MindNation is very important. You're not just helping yourself, your team, but you're really affecting a lot of people. Like the work that you do with MindNation is very important. So, how do you set boundaries for something as meaningful as the work that you do for MindNation?
I learned that the hard way that I always treated my business and my work as my baby. And with a lot of people that are very close to their work, it seems that way talaga na parang I birthed this. I molded this. I fed it. Took time and effort. I would have sleepless nights. Of course, I'm not a parent, but like I feel it that's I gave birth to that business along with my partners as well. And coming from a lived experience, there's something far deeper where I wanted to go to. And for the longest time, MindNation, when it started, is operating teletherapy. It had a structure and everything, and I thought it was all going super well. But just like a child, just like a baby, it grows up. It grows up, it has its own ideas, it has its own things that it's want, Mom, I want to be this and that. And you want to control it as much as possible. And especially when you bring in such wonderful, capable people into the business that may have different ideas, it's easy for you to get a bunch of yes people who will just tell you the same thing and agree to your ideas. But for businesses to grow and innovate, you have to have different opposing and sometimes really challenging views. And the business at one point was going in a direction that I wasn't so proud of. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like that we're talking about this. I don't like we're talking about that. But that was where the trend was. That was where the business was growing. And we were operating in a space that now, I was just talking to you about how we're moving towards community, well-being, and health. There are certain limitations of my business, like there's only less than 2,000 psychologists, less than 1,000 psychiatrists. If we want to take over the world, that's impossible. So we have to look into other ways that I felt was weird because I thought the whole time, no, therapy is the only thing. Therapy will be the only thing to say. And I realized it comes from a place of privilege. So I have to be able to allow my business to be also led and guided by people who had very different views from me. And it was so hard because I took it personally. I took their challenges for my views very personally. Like, do you think I don't know how to run my own business? You think that my ideas and my beliefs are wrong? And when it's challenging something that's really deeply ingrained in your core, that's tough. So I've learned to do in the very hard way to take a step back from it. And of course, the business, it will speak for itself. If the numbers are good, if more people are feeling better about the work that we do, then great. It's in the direction that I ultimately wanted to be in. The goal is not for me to be able to just lead it all the way and do all the hard work by myself. I want to be able to take a step back and create a culture shift. And I always have to think about that. What is my end goal? And it's not the day-to-day stuff. So that's one. And separately, the way that helped me kind of lessen the load on that was allow myself even the boundaries at work. That if I get into a disagreement with a partner or with the director in the company, I will allow myself to take a step back and really let go of some of the ego that I have. I can't claim to know everything. Diba? I don't know everything. I know I don't know everything. And especially in an industry that is not yet established. It's not like, cooking an egg or something. There's a right way, the right temperature, right formula. In creatives, it's the same way. There's no one ad that will work for many different industries. So I'm gonna have to allow myself that space to let go and just also take that rest for myself and do other things that will help me balance that. So part of setting the boundaries is allowing yourself to be led by other people, to listen to different points of view, trusting them as well, and being absolutely okay to not knowing everything. You don't have to have everything super figured out because the truth is none of us do. We're just kids with money. That's what it is. We kind of don't have everything all figured out. And the more money and bills, exactly. And with some responsibilities. And so it's okay to not have everything figured out because then you start to realize the more people you meet, no one really has all their shit together. And that's okay.
How do people say no to things that they love? to do, things that are important to them, things that align with the things that they want to do. How do they say no to something like that?
I've actually had to say no to things that I thought not only was something that I really thoroughly enjoyed, but was actually going to give me work and money. And that's, again, a place of privilege to be able to say no to those things that you like and will give you money. But at the end of the day, I truly believe in the power of knowing your why, knowing what your true purpose is in life. And that's so much easier to filter everything out. If you're like me, that's extra competitive, that loves doing multiple things all at the same time, it's hard to say no to things. Parang one of the biggest things that I've learned to, na advice that a mentor previously told me, was to strike while the iron is hot. So I'm just gonna keep striking and striking and striking. I'm just keeping on going for it. But that's okay when you're starting off and figuring out what you really want to do and your why. And once you realize that, okay, at the end of the day, you know what? My very main why, and even why I started MindNation in the first place, is that so that I can have peace with myself. I can better take care of myself, and I can give that peace to others. And so if there's something that's not connecting, that this is already harming what my why is, then a lot of things I'll have to say no to. And the practice, there's a lot of mental muscle that you need to do when you're saying no. So you practice by saying no to little things before you say no to big things. You say no to things like, for example, when someone gets your order wrong. Minsan nahihiya tayo na parang, oh, it's okay, sige, I'll just eat that na lang. Learn to say no to those things. Learn to say no na parang, I can't do that schedule. I can't do that time. And then you'll be able to say yes to even the bigger things. A lot of it, like what you were just discussing earlier, is in context that you'll have to understand. There's a lot of different layers, especially when, kunyari, it's a big job opportunity. It might not necessarily align with your goals, but it's making money that you have to be able to do. At the end of the day, whether it's a redirection, not necessarily a rejection, I'm a firm believer that it will always lead you to the path where you're supposed to be in. So kahit na ilang no pa yan, if it's meant for you, it's meant for you. So I believe that.
How do you say no? Hard stop, especially if you're managing yourself.
I think I'm glad na it took a little bit of time to think. How I say no if I don't know how to say no is the body will decide.
The body will decide.
The body will decide, and it's going to happen at some point. And then you realize, okay, then I think that goes into the burnout space din ulit na parang, and unfortunately, sometimes if you're in the time in your career or your life na self-discovery ka pa lang, in that, on its own, self-discovery is syempre, when you're in that mindset, I would say, go for all the limits. Because you don't know what you can't do until, I can't do this pala. Diba? So, I think maybe there's a better way to do it. I haven't found it yet, but once you're at the point when your body says, no, parang tumba ka na, and parang, okay, maybe let's not do that again. And then you'll try to develop your practice a little bit more. I wish there was a better way to develop a creative relationship with yourself, but so far for me, it's hit or miss. The important thing is just you don't make the same mistake twice. Or if you're going to make the same mistake, you better be ready. Okay, it looks like this is happening, so I better cushion the blow sa dulo. But alam naman natin na nothing comes good at 3 a.m. this time, so be ready na lang na to put an extra effort, or you bring other people in to help you.
In relation to the topic of boundaries, diba? For creatives kasi, diba? Sometimes, yung work natin, sabi mo nga, it's your baby, diba? Parang niluwa mo yan, ginawa mo yan eh. It feels like anything that we put out there, it's part of ourselves. It's a deep, it's a direct reflection of who we are as creatives, as the maker. I guess ang question ko is, how do you separate the creative from the creative work? May mga moment na, kunyari, gumawa ng layout, diba? Ganda ng design mo, ganda ng art print mo. And then, ibibenta mo siya. No one bought one single thing. Gumawa ng entire collection. It's your design, diba? And then, your collection flopped. And you feel like, maybe there's something wrong with me. Kasi, hindi nag-move yung trabaho ko eh. Walang nag-like nung pinost ko. Diba? Yung video na in-edit ko na ilang linggo, hindi man lang naka-ilang views lang. Maybe there's something wrong with me. So, and then it goes into really deep spiral na maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, diba? Maybe I don't have the talent, pinipilit ko lang. It becomes really bad. For creative entrepreneurs, na gumawa ka ng art print, binenta mo siya ng weekend, walang bumili, pero next week, meron ka na namang isang fair, sasali ka ulit. Kailangan mo ulit gumawa, pero walang bumili ng work mo. So, parang saan ka makakuha ng motivation to even make more stuff when the initial batch that you did, walang bumili? How do you separate the creative from the creative work and have that boundary na creative pa rin ako kahit ganyan yung trabaho ko, kahit hindi siya nabenta? How do you do that?
I would still go back to awareness and having this relationship with yourself and why you're doing something. So the why is correct of what you need to do. But I think when you say the why of things, it feels so really, really big, diba? But it also can be the small stuff. And I know this might sound harsh, but output natin products eh. And I think as far as my experiences taught me, if I'm going to do something for a specific reason, I attach myself based on why I'm doing that. So for example, this is what I learned sa Comic-Con. Most of my early books are super personal, like I'm in there, and I learned that, Filipino fans of graphic art, of graphic design, marami sila, they just need to be tapped lang as a market. And then people are really interested in new things. I go to Comic-Con and walang pumila. And then you have like my colleagues who are like, may pa-number pa siya. No, dami nila. So and then you realize, I felt bad. I really felt bad. And then, I have something here. I have something to show. This is unique. I thought being unique is what you need to sell here in this space. Took me down for a few days and I realized, first of all, it's Comic-Con. You didn't bring a comic. I know it sounds like stupid na parang, you should have figured that out, but sometimes we don't figure those things out. If we're going to a market, do we understand the market, what it needs? And that's where it becomes more of a business talk. But then it also cushions the blows that you will take. Yes, maybe I didn't sell, but doesn't mean you're not creative. Maybe you just didn't sell today. I think it's one of the lessons I like, that I still hate, but I like in the industry is, you may have the best ideas, but sometimes client won't buy them. Then you understand that, this is a practice. It's something you need to just keep doing and find a way to enjoy. And then when it's great, it's great. When it's bad, and then you move on. It doesn't mean you're not creative. It just means you had a bad day. Just means you had a bad pitch.
Or maybe you're just talking to the wrong people,
You're the
diba?
wrong people din.
Yeah.
There are books, there are projects that you can set aside for a while. Pag natapos set it aside, and when, who knows, in a few years, that's when people are ready for it, and then it's there na pala. So, timing, resource, network, community, the market, it changes all the time. But I think I'll go back to, if none of this was around, would you still be making? The pressure changes because now you need to make money. But if you still want to be making it, then again, find that relationship with yourself. Okay, I'm going to take all these feelings now, but if these repeat all the time, then something's not working. Then maybe I change something.
That's really good. I think when you're thinking about your business or your output, you have to recognize that there's so many factors at play when it comes to success. A lot of it is luck. Pure luck. Someone found it, someone shared it, it was snowballed, became a viral video sensation. And you can try to repeat that formula over and over again, but it won't have the same effect. So it's not always a testament to whether your art is good or bad. There's so many other factors, like treating it as a business. When you're in the market, and for example, walang tao dun sa business, it does not mean that it's only purely your work that's a problem. It could be the organizers. They didn't market it well. They didn't do this and that. It was not the right time and space. And you have to be open to understanding that there's so many things that could be at play. It's not just you. And a lot of times, yun nga, when it comes to thinking about our business and everything is so focused on this one sale equals like, okay, it affirms how good my work is, but there's so many different things. It could even be a factor of, it could be even beyond the time and space where the market is ready for it. So many artists that we know today, we only find out and appreciate their work long after they've lived, which does not mean anything, but like, I'm just saying, it's an example. And even good artists like Picasso, they didn't start off with that work immediately. They started off by playing around with different kinds of art styles until they kind of figure out their vibe, and this is what they want to do. And that's part of the whole process. If, for example, someone like Picasso or even a musician just got stuck with this style and made that their whole identity, now I'm just going to do realistic portraits. And that's all I'm going to do. And this is going to be who I am as an artist. He wouldn't be the Picasso we know today. And that process, and knowing also that there's so many different factors contribute to the success. And sometimes it is about a bit of luck. Knowing the right people, networking, diba? And having the right time and space. There was a person that went up to me because I was talking about the work that I was doing with this viral series that I did in my corporate life, and said to me that, you know what? Like a few years actually before you launched, I proposed and pitched a very, very similar thing to another brand. And they didn't like it at all because they said it was so not on brand of them to talk about death, to talk about this, to talk about that. And then I saw you guys did it, and I was thinking, it's like, see, sabi na eh. Sabi na that was gonna work. And I was thinking to them, it's luck. The business that I was working in had a lot of resources and time, and because they were already so hinged on brand love, there's so much allowance for them to do a little bit more of the crazier things. And that doesn't necessarily mean that his prior pitch was a bad pitch. It could have just been the wrong people he were talking to. It takes a lot of fun, a lot of maturity to let go of the ego and to start to realize. But ibang story rin naman yung you're blaming other people for the poor work. Na parang, kasi ikaw hindi mo pinitch sa tamang person. It's balance. Thinking na rin parang there's something I could improve and learn from this, and also knowing that it's not all on you.
Ang ganda na yung sinabi mo na parang it enables you to take the pressure off yourself na ikaw lang yung may kasalanan, because again, there's so many factors that can contribute why a product moves and why it's not moving, diba? And ang ganda rin yung sinabi mo, Alan, na na-hurt ka nung hindi siya na-move. Parang you let yourself feel that frustration, but then after nun, you still showed up, diba? Maybe it's really not the place for it. Pero alam mo yun, parang we don't need to parang dismiss the feeling na you felt rejected, because they're real. We're humans, diba? We put our heart into it, diba? Ilang oras yung ginawa mo. So, normal na you feel slight disappointment. Pero again, sana hindi ka lang mag-dwell dun sa disappointment na yon and look at the bigger picture. And there's so many factors that affect the output of your work, diba? Ang ganda. And ang ganda rin na yung idea, gagawin mo pa ba siya kung hindi
Kung
siya,
wala lahat
diba?
to,
Wala lahat,
yeah.
diba?
Because I think there's a high probability that you would do it anyway. It's just that you attached a new requirement for this to continue. And I think showing up is very important. Sometimes you're not ready, but you just have to show up. And then parts of you will figure it out as you go along.
I had a boss before, like as a junior copywriter. Tapos, ang pinirsan ko sa kanya idea, first clearing namin, 5 ideas lang. Tapos sabi niya, uy, 5? Like, wala, kasi clear ako sa'yo. So, pinirsan ko lang yung best of the best. Pero sabi niya, what if hindi ko i-approve yan? Yun yung ideas mo. Sabi ko, no, I think I can come up with more. Sabi niya, come up with more. And then, I think that stuck to me na parang, okay, ang pangat ng draft ko. Okay, I can just come up with another one. Parang hindi nag-work yung line ko. I think I'll just come up with another one, and another one, and another one. Hindi ka mauubusan ng creativity. I think it's something na the more you make, the more you show up, the more fertile your creative soil is. So, yeah, sana okay ma-demotivate. But it's okay that you feel disappointment. Hindi naman maaalis yun eh. But sana may ganong separation from the product, the output, and the process of how you're making your art. Okay, so a while ago, we talked about like being open to signals and signs that you're burning out, and how important it is to create boundaries, diba? Para alam mo kung saan ka lulugar? Diba? And na-mention nyo to a while ago also, how important it is to keep showing up and having a system that supports your creativity. So, yung tip number 3 namin is really, systems are not the enemy of creativity. It actually supports it. It actually supports your productivity more. So, I want to ask you, in your day-to-day lives, lalo na dami yung ikaw, dami mong pinagsasabay-sabay, what are the types of systems that you put in place in your day-to-day para alam mong you can show up for all your many obligations? And what happens if your systems fail? Nangyari na ba yun sa'yo?
Let's start by saying I don't like systems. I don't like structure. I hate it. I think it stifles my creativity. Diba? Na parang sabi ko parang, so, I hate routine. I don't like having to wake up every day to do it every day. But I need it too. I need the method to the madness and to the chaos that I have. And one of the best systems that I started doing is putting everything in my calendar. Even my rest. Lunch, and then when everyone in my team sees all of that, parang, okay, this is the schedule, this is what's happening. And I'm very transparent with them about it. That structure helps me stay accountable also, na parang, I am so much more faithful to my calendar than anything else. I'm just like, okay, let's go. And sometimes it has failed because many things have happened. You felt this when I have calendared something. And I was like, oh no! The thing with structure and with these processes is sometimes there's little to no room for flexibility. And so when I put the wrong schedule and the wrong things in the calendar, it messes up everything. And it's a challenge. That's one thing that I have to learn, that I have to be able to balance that structure that I have. I need that structure. And also a bit of flexibility. I used to have this thing where if it doesn't go my way, whether in structure and timing. And I like kasi, and some practice that I like doing is having an intention for the week. Now this week, I'm gonna do all the face-to-face talks. So I'm readying an extra set of social battery for it. The week before, I'm not talking to anyone. The week after, I'm not talking to anyone. Para sure 100% ako dito. And yun pala, kunyari, talks don't happen, walang ma-schedule. And I get so frustrated because this is what's in my calendar. I have to remember it. And now I don't know. I can't be flexible. So it has failed a couple of times. And I had to create another system for when it fails. Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. So that it'll help also with the anxiety. Because anxiety is when you're feeling uncertain and you start to overthink because you're not sure about the outcome, you're not sure about what to do. So it helps me. I put everything in the calendar. If this doesn't happen, I have plan B. Okay, at least I can get the rest. At least I can get to have time for my nephews and my nieces. And that works out in its own way also.
Ang ganda nung sinabi mo na when your systems fail you try to look for another system, like a backup. Kasi parang sometimes your systems also adjust to the kind of lifestyle that you have, diba? And ano yung mga things na kailangan mo? Kasi hindi lang naman ikaw yung tao sa mundo. And of course, a lot of things happen around you, other people's needs also. And ang ganda na your system is there to guide you, but it's also evolving based on your needs para hindi ka nawawala. So it serves you talaga.
And something that I always have to remember is that I can't do everything all at once as much as we want to. So I do the nonprofit, I do my sport, I have family, and all of us have multi-dimensional things. But it's kind of like a triangle where I already know if I'm taking care of my work for this week or this month, and I do sports also, I know that I'm not doing my rest very well. And there is also that myth of work-life balance na dapat 8 hours of sleep and then 8 hours of work. And then, paano na yung 8 hours for your family? You only, like what you said earlier, you only have very finite energy and resources. So I have to be okay with that. Okay, it's okay, pero ibabawi ko. In the next week, I'll make sure to take care of I'll rest. And that's also normal. It's a system that works for you. So you have to be able to know which system works best.
Ikaw, Alan, what are the systems that you have created over the years as a creative para mabalance mo the advertising life and your writing, diba? Ang dami mo rin kasing ginagawa on top of your dailies. So, what are the structures that you implemented along the way that helped you be like the creative that you are?
I think it's two parts. The first is you're just discovering the system. And because as much as I would like to have, it only takes 3 steps, guys.
Hindi siya ganun
eh.
no?
Pero part kasi of my personal experience, it takes a lot of pushing yourself so far. And then again, then the body says, no, this is not your system. And then, adulting kicks in. Now you've got bills, now you've got finite energies na lang. And then that's when for me, my realization was time is my most important resource. And by that time then, I realized, okay, I can only make 1 book every year. It will take me 6 months to make a book, 6 months to attempt to market it. And then during that time, I need to be able to start another one to make it sa next year. So how do I do that on top of advertising, which takes like a third minimum of your day? And then it just became 1 hour a day. Ganun lang sa inisip ko. 1 hour a day to work on your book. That's it. Every day. Bare minimum. Also, be around people who are also makers. Kasi bumibilis ka eh. May pace ka. Parang like-minded. Oh, I know that system feels very charts and but the system should also allow for other people to join. For example, physically, this is a whole system in itself, di ba? Mamaya, may exhibit doon, sa baba, may coffee, ganyan. Things like these are something you find out, unfortunately, along the way, and you have to keep pushing yourself and finding that sort of balance between whatever it is you're trying to balance. So far, the best system for me, I should have known this years ago, especially sa advertising, is every year, most of us submit sa kan, di ba? And I realized, dapat pala ganun. Kasi may calendar ka dapat, so all your efforts go there. Then you realize, so that's the priority, everything else, nasa baba yan. So you don't take these side projects, I'll take this one kasi it makes me learn, blah, 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 blah. So I know it might sound like, sorry, 1 thing a year lang. For me, it's just 1 thing a year. I wish I understood that my system should have been Manila International Book Fair every year. Di ba, writer ka lang? Ba't di mo naisip yun, di ba? Every September na naman yun eh. So, di ko siya naisip. And then, just look forward to that. Build a timeline around that. And then, that's how you say no. Say no to this. And then, the seasons thinking comes in then. You know where to rest. Kasi ako, for sure, September, I'll burn out. Kaya tiniming ko siya right before, I'll burn out after siguro. September, October niyan. And then, naka-leave na ko niyan. Naka-set na yun for the year. I found the system while working through what I was making.
Ang ganda ng sinabi mo of having a calendar or a timeline around it. Kasi for a lot of makers, diba, it's important to pinpoint yung mga milestones na yon for the year so that you can design a system or a calendar that will work for your energy and yung resources mo, ng tao mo, targeting that. So for us makers, i-target nyo na, kunyari, kung syempre, Pasko yan. So, alam mo na November, December, yan yung crunch time talaga. Siguro, i-advance or i-forgo mo yung mga rest mo, period mo, kasi that is your crunch time. And everything leading up to that, you build a system that will deliver that. Ang ganda rin nung sinabi mo kanina na i-calendar rest in. Sinasama mo siya na parang where you put your time kasi is where you put your attention and what you value. So, ibig sabihin, kung nilagay mo siya sa calendar mo, important yung rest. So, ang ganda na yung when you talk about seasons, pag gumagawa ka ng book, I think other makers and businesses can look at that also. Ano yung mga prime seasons for your business na alam mong raratrat ka? Ano yung mga seasons for your business na maybe lean months, wala naman talagang magagawa. Maybe yun yung time nyo na nag-explore lang kayo ng team mo or nag-experiment ka lang. Mga low seasons can be your time for rest also, so you get inspired. So, ang ganda na, even if sabihin mo na system sounds very cold and technical and structured, but when you look at it as a season of life, diba? What's your year like gonna be? You can paint it that way. And you can paint a life na you're still working hard, but there's also time na you're in autumn, you're in fall, you're just recuperating. And then there's spring that you can be more creative and you can be experimental. And then, pag winter, ginagawa natin pag winter. Diba? So, ang ganda na we can look at it that way na you don't have to be 100% all the time. And that allows you to like slow down.
I think it also helps learning about active rest, for example. Kasi I feel like if I didn't have that system, I'm going to treat every instruction like, this is it, this is the opportunity na. and then you're tired every day because you're 100% every day. Like, I gotta write every day. I have to meet like a certain feeling with a climactic paragraph, whatever, or something like mind-blowing sa ginagawa ko all the time. It works if you're figuring things out. But at some point, na parang, okay, I know now where my strengths are at. But while you're in active rest, parang it opens yourself up to new things. Oh, I have energy for this pala, but not this one. I have time for this, di ba? Kasi, it's 6 weeks pa pala, or 6 weeks na lang, as opposed to, I'm gonna make it now because I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Actually, you do know what's gonna happen in 6 months. So you build yourself around that then. An important lesson for me was this, I forgot his name, but the content creator din siya sa US, businessman, and he's, I think in his 50s na, and he said like, I only have 10 summers left with my family. That's why he plans it around an extremely fun summer vacation all the time. Pero, nga no, 10 summer vacations left. So he builds everything towards that. But okay, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
And your systems also allow you to say no to things without guilt. Kasi alam mo that at the end of the year, when you look at your week, may intention ka. Pag tinignan mo siya the whole year, intention mo, ito yung pinaka-focus mo. It's easier for you to say no, and it's easier for you to commit to the calendar in your system kasi alam mo ito yung important eh. Yun yung goal mo for the year. So, we've talked about having boundaries. We've talked about systems. Parang those things are like a lot of, you manage things that are very external. Di ba? Iba-iba yung mga obligations sa other people. Kung kailangan natin mag-produce, kailangan natin mag-show up. But there are also a lot of invisible things like that we handle internally in our mind. Like, for example, you mentioned na MindNation, nakita nila sa creative industry, one of the challenges is imposter syndrome. And then for you, you mentioned also creative block, diba? Those are a lot, most of the time in our head lang. And siguro ang tip namin for you, if you're feeling that way, na parang there's always doubt, diba? Parang it's healthy to look at it from the perspective of growth. That you're not static, that even if you feel like hindi ka pa ready, there's always room for you to grow. You are not a fraud even if hindi ka pa sure. It's just, you're in that phase that you're still growing. Siguro I wanna ask you, Kat, when you moved from your corporate job that you were doing really well, diba? Parang competitive ka, you have clear targets and all of a sudden, started your own business, you focused on MindNation, and you're building that from ground up. Were there instances that you felt like, oh, okay, I'm in over my head, I wasn't trained for this, diba? But that was your reality.
I think about that even now. I feel like, man, sometimes I'm not so good with my mental health. Why am I talking about it? I'm not the best expert. I'm not the psychologist. So I think about that so often. Someone has told me that imposter syndrome is usually a good sign of you being achievers. Most people who experience imposter syndrome are achievers because they know there's so much more to learn. They're open and they're aware that there's so much room to grow. And that sometimes, okay, maybe I'm not the best person, but the healthy part of that is allowing yourself to grow into that. It's opposite to this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which I'm sure a lot of us also experience with a lot of people, that you have such a high confidence, but the skill is so low. So they're all talk and they're just like, I can do this, I can do that, pero the results and the output really doesn't show. There are people like that. And usually more well-achieved and creative people have that aspect where they feel that there's still so much to prove. And to add to that, we are in an extremely Asian culture where our parents think that success is this or that. You're a doctor or this. And you're an artist. Who's gonna feed you? Who's gonna pay for your bills? Kawawa ka naman. And so you're out to prove that like, oh, I have to make money with this artwork because I have to prove to my parents that I'm gonna be okay as an artist and doing what I love. So there's also that other layer of the trauma and reworking past belief systems that contribute to our feeling of self-worth and the feeling that we are capable. So when we're thinking about reworking those systems and reworking those negative beliefs about ourselves, you're correct. It has to always come from a room of growth. And when I stepped in MindNation, and until now, that's something I have mentioned earlier, that I have to learn the hard way. I have to allow this business to grow into something that's even beyond my wildest dreams. And it's going to end up in the way that it's meant to be. I am putting in a lot of the things that I have learned in the corporate space. I think that having structure, having KPIs, targets, performance evaluations that I never really used to do with my corporate life towards my own people now is something that I'm glad that I've learned. And I know that there's still so much more for me to learn as a leader. So I have to practice that extra kindness to myself. And I explain that also to my people. There's this fear that you have to kind of know it all as a business leader because everybody's looking up to you. But
Extra pressure siya actually, parang when something goes wrong, they look to you like,
yeah, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And I'm surprised. Maybe it's also good people that we've hired in MindNation. But when I do say that I kind of don't know, they take an extra time. Okay, let's brainstorm. Let's sit on it. And they love that kind of humility that they get to put in their piece of thought, and that I'm not just plainly following. And what I've seen now in the 5 years that I've been in the business is that people that started off as interns and maybe even newcomers at work, they end up growing to be such amazing leaders because they've already put into practice a bit of the thinking and they know that they can speak their mind. Everything is a learning experience for me. I still don't claim to know everything, and everything that I share is based off my personal experiences, but that's part of being kind to yourself as well.
We're so harsh kasi, no? Sobrang hypercritical natin sa sarili natin if we mess up, na parang we don't give ourselves room to actually make a mistake. We're really harsh to ourselves. Siguro, Alan, tanong ko naman sa'yo, you've been in the creative industry for how many years na rin? And you also lead a creative team, diba? So, have you learned to quiet down the nagging feeling, or friends na ba kayo? Or mas maingay ba siya now? Like,
The nagging feeling, I think a few years ago, I realized, okay, I don't need to shut this down. I don't need it as much, but I need it around because it kind of like puts the right questions as long as it doesn't do the answering for me. Whatever happens, I try to get myself and the people around me, let's answer it through the work. Because if we keep talking about it, if we keep arguing, wala tayong mararating. I mean, talking is great, but we have to try and simplify it to the point that let's make it and see how it makes us feel. It's actually one of the first things we learn in agencies, which is, I don't know if people still do it, tissue ideas. Because I realized in some teams, when they discuss ideas, there's nothing on the table. So you talk. But what happens is, if I'm leading the brainstorm and you're saying your ideas, when I give you the comment, part of it takes the comment about yourself. It's so simple, but write all your ideas down, write it all down, put it on the board, and then let's talk about it now that we're separate from ourselves. Now we are solving the problem, here's the solution. Now you are part of this side of the room na. Okay, yung idea niya pala is kind of better than this one. So wala ka na dun, but we're all here. We're all part of the same team. Personally, as in some areas of my work, I prefer not to brainstorm because I think there are some problems individuals are really very good at. And it trains them to feel more confident before going into a meeting where everyone needs to share ideas then. So I try to give time. No, on your own solve that. You solve your solutions and maybe that's it. Maybe you don't need me as much pala. So get stronger on your own. And then if you're confident on your own, then we join as a team. We're all confident. We can separate ourselves from the work. We've got 6 solutions and then on to the next one. And again, when it works, everyone was at their best.
ang ganda ng sinabi mo na you let them solve it first and then eventually the confidence will come. Kasi I think confidence will come from competence eh. Yung parang, nasolusyonan ko pala siya, nagawan ko siya ng paraan. And it's not something instant. You don't go out of the gates being like, parang, I'm confident on something. You really have to suck at something first, and you have to figure it out. And then when you figure it out and you see, that works. Nagawan ko siya ng solusyon. And then you're more confident to tackle another thing and another thing and another thing. when we started out Pop Junk Love ng sister ko, our first brand, gusto ng parents ko maging lawyer yung ate ko. So, yan. Tapos ako, I was psych, pero ended up in comm. So, like, advertising, marketing, yung slate ko, diba? And then we went into business. Wala naman kaming alam sa doll making. Wala naman kaming alam sa math, pricing, and all. Like, there were so many years na lugi kami with fairs because we didn't know how to price. But I think it's something na you really have to go through. And when you have that voice in your head na parang, you're not good at this or you're not capable, I try to change the filter and say na, what is it I need to work on? Maybe the insecurity is there because you know that there's an area in your life or in your skill set that you need to work on. I'm fresh from leaving the agency world and I'm doing YouTube and like I've been really anxious about this, diba? But like my anxiety helped me prepare for it. Like I've been reading through your answers, I've had notes, like parang I'm still figuring it out, but you know, it pushed me to research, to be better prepared to learn a bit more, and then sana eventually I'll be good at it and I'm not as nervous. But you know, the doubt is there, insecurity is there, but over time, I'll try to be kinder to myself while I figure it out. And sana kayo din, if you have those instances na you're always like doubting your capabilities, maybe it's just pushing you in a direction where you can grow. And growth can be messy and there are a lot of mishaps. And sana you give yourself that leeway to actually make a mess and not say na that's the end of it for you. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, and I'm excited to see how else you guys will grow and ano yung mga new roles na gagawin nyo in the future. But there are also instances na sometimes kahit you have a healthy relationship with that and ayaw mong pakinggan lahat ng mga nagging feeling, sometimes you need other people help you snap out of it. Kasi sabi mo nga parang minsan, ang lakas-lakas ng boses na yun. I can't drown it out. And I guess I want to segue this to the importance of having community and having a support system that will really help you silence that or redirect that voice. Kasi being an artist, being a creative, and being an entrepreneur, it's hard. And you can't do it on your own. Have there been instances na you actually looked outward yourself to get the help that you need for things na you know na you can't do on your own?
Since I started working as an intern, I was under this boss who was in the HR space, and up until today, decades na yun, she's my mentor, and she inspires me in so many things. It started off as like when I first saw her step in, I was like this 17-year-old sitting down in the computer, and she comes in, she's like, freshly blow-dried hair. She has her high heels and she looks great. And I was like, wow, I want to be like that. I didn't even know her name. I was like, I want to be like that. And then I started hearing her talk. I started learning more about her life. And I was just like, this woman is great. I think this is someone that I can learn a lot from. And along the way, like we stayed in touch. She helped me with a lot of things. And she's this one person that I can totally trust with everything. And I can totally be honest about, I don't know what to do. And if you find someone who you can be open and honest with and say, be yourself and say like, I'm actually just like a bit more than I can chew here. They're either able to tell you one of two things. Yeah, you did bite off more than you can chew, so they're able to be honest with you. But they're able to do that in a way that they are your champions and advocates, where they know maybe this is the right path for you. Because you need to do that like outward view as well. And then there are people who also know and believe you in a way that they keep you pushing. Na parang, no. Go pa yan, kaya pa yan. You need to keep going. So it's important to have that kind of person that you can trust to tell you the truth no matter what. You have friends that are kind of like cheerleaders that will just say, go, you can do it, anything is possible. Even though it's not healthy. Yeah. And that's good for sometimes, but you more than anything, you need people who can tell you the truth. And even with mental health, I used to advocate so heavily doing therapy, and I still do naman in many ways, but therapy is only just one small part of your life. Probably you do it once a week if you really need it, but like once a month, maybe even once a quarter. The question is, what's happening every day? Who are you surrounding yourself with every day? You don't always have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't always have to be the most creative. And by being surrounded by people who you know will help you grow or who are right for you in your season, whatever that season is, are equally as important for your mental health because they help shape the narrative you have in your head. If you're gonna keep going, if you're gonna stop, if you're gonna take a pause, they help keep you accountable. So that's kind of support system we started advocating in MindNation, that it doesn't matter if you have MindNation and the best kind of mental health that the world has to offer. If your culture is rotten, if your culture is the type that doesn't value rest and taking care of yourself or even treating mental health as a priority, people are not gonna take it. And we've seen that in the results, that they have MindNation as a benefit, but for 45 to 50% of them won't do it because their work and their manager isn't encouraging it. We want to be able to make sure that the culture really does speak more about the good mental health than the benefit itself.
For you, Alan, how important is it to find the community that's supportive? Like Creative Voice. Kasi diba sometimes in the creative industry, may iringan yan eh. Like, puro, gagawin yung style ko yan eh. Sinabi ko yan dati, idea ko yan eh. Pero, have you found a steady support system that helps you navigate those doubts and insecurities as a creative?
It's one thing I've been trying to find for so long. Sige, I'll go all the way back. Even when I got here from Bacolod to Manila, I saw that most of the communities in advertising, I realized, even in design, were all based in schools. So ingrained na sa kanila to go to gigs together. Parang galing naman pag may creative festival. It's all these guys from UST, the design gang nandun. And I kind of really envied that because I think when I got here, most of us from Bacolod followed our own paths. Okay. We were on our own. So it really took a while. It really took a long time. Kasi you get here, you find out who you are. When you find out who you are, you find out what you make. And then by the time you're ready for a community, you realize, there's also other things that you need to figure out pala. But I realized that it is necessary to be around people who believe in the same thing that you do, what you're doing, because that's how you make beliefs real. At some point kasi, when you're on your own, you just have these ideas. And then, paano kaya if ganito? What if we make a shirt brand like this? But then suddenly when you're around people, they don't even believe it na. They just do it. Yeah. We are going to make this, it's going to smell like this, and it's happening. And then just the enjoyment of people, just the honor of just enjoying each other's work. Parang galing, no? Gagawin nila kasi gusto nilang gawin. And then suddenly it's a business and suddenly it's inspiring a new generation, all because you believe na parang I'm gonna make this and I'm gonna share it. And that's why the sharing part with the community is kind of important din.
So I think important to take note from that is while a lot of your insecurities or yung mga doubts nyo happen inside your head, parang it just doesn't have to live there. As in, you can reach out, you can connect with other people who may be feeling the same way also, and maybe you can tackle it, talk about it, and get inspiration from each other for you to get out of that rut.
Lalo na I think that what we make, I think a part goes back to kanina na a lot of what we make comes from who we are. So if you're able to make something that even is inspired by the things that, things make you insecure, it might even resonate with more people. So through making, nakahanap ka ng role sa community nyo. And you even build that community. And fortunately, if the culture in the community is good, it'll serve back some making better connections din.
When we talk about mental health din kasi, di ba, it's very big, it's very important, it's very deep. And most of the time, when people discuss yung mga depression nila, anxieties nila, burnout nila, parang it feels like ang laki-laki niya and ang hirap dalhin mag-isa. Pero when I look through your answers, yung mga pre-interview questions natin, like parang what are the things that you can do to tend to your mental health? A lot of them are actually very simple, very small things that you can do every day. Pero parang ang laki-laki ng mental health, di ba? But I guess yung tip namin, last tip for this episode is that little habits have very big impact on your mental health. And we often overlook them kasi iinom na naman ako ng tubig, matutulog lang naman ako, but they actually compound. I guess I wanna ask you, ano yung mga little things, non-negotiable little things that should be part and parcel of your systems, your everyday things that you should do to make sure that you are healthy and you're well? Like, not just here, not just in your body, but also mentally, everything. Kasi everything is connected, diba? So, ano yung mga little things that you can do right now to tend to your mental health?
When I make, because I have full talk about taking care of your mental health, and I've come across like comments na parang, this is too simple, it's so basic. It's like things that have always been said. The question is, are you doing them? Kasi good mental health and taking care of your well-being, it has to be sustainable. If your version of taking care of yourself is a trip to Japan, can you do that every day? Is that something that you're realistically able to do every week or every month for you to take care of yourself? It has to be realistic. If that trip is something you can do all the time, then great, good for you. But little things matter and little things compound. Surrounding yourself with the right community is an important part of your mental health. And that's something that is totally within your control. Being able to say no, even to small things. Kasi if you're afraid to say no to small things, pa kaya the bigger things, diba? Things like breathing. You mentioned earlier, when you're talking about something that's really difficult or at work, you're just like not breathing at all. And that's so simple. Why do I have to remind you to breathe? Diba? And we tend to forget it. When we are in a state of anxiety, in a state of panic, we tend to take really short breaths or they don't breathe at all. Kasi para tayo hinahabol. It's an innate part of our body. Because something I want you to remember is your brain is not designed to make you happy. Your brain is designed for you to survive. Okay? Survival. So, magsa-survival mode yan. It's either gonna fly, freeze, fawn, and it's going to do what it can with what it knows to make you survive. Diba? So, if it's like not breathing muna, and just like being crunched up and everything, that's your survival mode, and you have to be aware of it. So that's why these little things matter. Drinking water, taking time to rest, deep breath, in, hold, and out. And you now start to notice, nag-iiba na yung beats of your heart, and it's helping you. And that air that you're breathing is helping your brain kind of relax a bit more. Na parang, it's okay. No bear is chasing us. We're alive. We're okay. We'll take this step by step. Pag nasa panic mode na tayo, kasi feeling natin parang end of the world na if we don't get to figure something out. And so those routines. So I make sure to at least get a moment on Sundays, a moment where I kind of figure out my intention for the week. I try to do a little bit of meditation, doesn't matter what kind of meditation it is, 15 minutes. I try, ngayon medyo weekly na siya, pero I try to journal as well because it's so interesting for me to kind of read back and say, hey, ang weird naman yung sinabi ko, hindi naman, it's not such a big deal naman pala. When you write things down kasi, parang napuput to paper, napiprint mo yung things in your head. And in your head, it sounds so much bigger than what it actually is. So I do that. I make sure to get at least a few minutes of time for activity, like physical. It doesn't have to be so crazy. Walking outside, getting fresh air, being in nature. Like, bring your plants in, touch the leaf. Ganon. You know, yung sinasabi nila ngayon, touch some grass, just stay grounded, diba? And that's what I also love about diving kasi is when you're diving, you're just like, oh, there's so much of the world and I'm worrying about this tiny little thing. And in the universe, I'm this tiny little speck. So there's so much of me that I can give out and have to be able to take care of myself. Those kinds of little things help contribute to you having that balanced mental well-being. And when you're feeling frustrated and angry, when it's harder to do those things, sad, depressed, all of those are very normal emotions. You keep doing them and it helps you so much more.
Ikaw, Alan, I'm sure sobrang high stress ng trabaho mo, diba? And on top of that, you're leading a team pa. So sometimes, yung burden nila, kinikarry mo din, di ba? So, what are those tiny little things that you make sure na you tend to every day for yourself?
I like to talk about first na parang, but the comment, but that's so small. The ability to do something small also kind of empowers you to decide this big thing is also small. Na parang, kasi, kaya siya, oh, laki, but, you know, we got a disapproval, we put in 10 days of work dito. But, kasi at some point you just said, that's so big. Great, malaki siya. But being able somehow, I don't know what the scientific link is, but doing small things for me, like, sobrang corny, it's stuff they tell you to do in kindergarten. You wake up, you make your bed, you brush your teeth, you eat vegetables. Eat vegetables! And,
Umihi ka.
Oo, umihi ka when
Diba?
kailangan.
Sometimes,
You need to go to the
diba?
bathroom. That headline will wait. You need to go to the bathroom and These things, in my experience, I don't like doing them. But I know that after I do them, I'll be ready. So not everything I do in the first few hours of the day I like. Why am I doing this? So I just go to the, just droning. You feel like a drone eh. Diba? Parang but then you're just kasi parang kang pinapandar mo ng katawan mo. The little things start and then the brain is like, oh, we're ready na pala. As opposed to na mapagising ko, oh, I feel like, which is valid. But you kind of like, let the 90% of your body like do its stuff then. So it's really the corny stuff. And what I'm trying to do, I think, now is most of the creative stuff, in my experience at least, when it comes to wellness, it's stuff you do after you figure out, oh, I'm mentally unhealthy pala. So I will do creative things. What I'm trying to do now is, what if you do the creative things way earlier and include it alongside the physical stuff? Parang, di ba, you all get all that energy from your workout and then suddenly you go into drawing and then something happens. Oh, I'm not just able to control my body, I'm also able to visualize something. And in the first hour of your day, if you can do that, how much more in the rest? So that's what I'm working on.
Small things. Actually, nasa-challenge din ako sa small things kasi there was a time na parang I wanted to take care of myself better. So, gising ko maaga, magsistretch ako. Alam mo yun, the little things. Like, tatakbo ko, maglalakad ako, magpapaaraw ako kasi vitamin D is important. Everything, circadian rhythm, ganyan-ganyan. And then all of a sudden, biglang, I had like a very sudden bout of depression. Tapos inis ako, sabi ko, ginawa ko naman kailangan gawin na. Uminom ako ng tubig, gumising ako, nag-stretching ako, nagpaaraw ako. And I still feel bad. Like parang feeling ko I cheated myself or something. Parang dapat happy ako. Pero I think at the end of the day, there are still moments like that na hindi mo talaga makokontrol. Like, alam mo yun, parang you don't live in isolation. So, may mga magsusurprise sa'yo, bubulaga sa'yo, or sometimes you're just really hormonal kasi baka PMS ako nun. So, wala talaga ako sa wisyo. Pero after nung moment na yun, inis ako sa sarili ko. Like, they're not working naman eh. I'm still like anxious today. Ganyan. Na-realize ko, nothing bad came out of me waking up and getting sun. Diba? It didn't help prevent that talaga. Pero alam ko na nung araw na kinuha ko yun, like, I felt better. There are moments din talaga na may hindi ka mapipredict, but walang masamang magagawa. Those little things that you do for yourself every day.
I felt the same way. Parang I started taking care of myself, and then when I was going through therapy, I had felt like there were parang moments and sessions where I felt so much worse than when I started. I had learned that when you were in that moment when you were taking care of yourself, I made the decision to take care of myself. I started getting some sun, I started getting good sleep and water because your brain nga is deciding that parang it is a safe space na. She's now taking care of herself. Okay, it's now safe to feel these emotions. So it kind of like let out that like thing in your body na parang, okay, now it's safe to finally let this out. And now your body and your brain are telling you that now you're better equipped to take care of it because all these systems are in place. I'm taking care of myself. It's better and easier for me to let go of this negative, heavy feeling. It's like what we were talking about earlier about how people feel so afraid to talk about their well-being. It's not like it wasn't there in the first place, but when you create that safe space for your mind and body to finally feel these things, they will come out. And that's one of the messiest parts about healing, is that you have to kind of go through that mess and recognize it for yourself. And these may be things and feelings that have been stuck at the back of your head. And then they're only coming out now because now your body assumes that it's a safe space and safe time na to release it. And yeah, you will feel guilty about it a bit, but it was a safe time. It was just the right time because you're taking care of yourself.
Tsaka, I think yung lesson din doon is that it's never gonna stop. Like, it's every day, every day. Okay, hindi ibig sabihin, 1 week, kumain ka ng healthy, natulog ka, okay na yun, ha? Parang you have to constantly show up for it. Kasi wala rin naman deadline ng healing. And that doesn't happen like, okay, tapos na, chapter close, it'll never come up again, ever again. So, di ba?
I think also then, reach out. We are in a day and age na parang, I don't know if everyone felt this, but there was a time na parang, should I check on people? Like, do you want to hang out? Maybe we're all going through mental health stuff, so wag na lang. Turns out, everyone I wanted to reach out to felt the same. I'm not gonna reach out because he's probably going through something. So when I did it, parang, buti lang you reach out. Yeah, I wanted to reach out too, but parang loop lang siya na di magkamusta na lang tayo all the time. Diba? I think that's really the role of community, the role of just showing up for friends, and also understanding that sometimes the little things really suck while you're doing them.
Lalo kung hindi ka sanay, no?
Oh, hindi
kung
ka
hindi mo siya
sanay.
ginagawa.
And especially, if for introvert friends, I also have a lone wolf moment, for example. But I've proven it na parang I would rather be out talking to a friend than be alone at home. Kahit 2 hours alone, 2 hours with a friend, mapapagod ako, gagastos ako ng konti. I'm gonna go back refreshed. I'll do something else. As opposed to 3 hours, hindi, itutulog ko na lang to. But it gets worse because you're just cooking this thing in your head na parang, I should have. What if I? But versus, I tried it na, no, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna walk to my friend, we're gonna have coffee, talk about stuff. It worked. So you take risks din like that.
Na-realize ko din, when we talk about these things, sabi nga natin, simple things, diba? Iinom ka ng tubig and all. You saying no to something na, alam mo namang hindi na kaya ng oras mo, like setting boundaries, like having a system, scheduling something para hindi ka ma-overwhelm. All of these are like acts of love self-love diba? Parang, even if they parang self-care siya or whatever, pero at the root of it all, it's you showing up for yourself in many different ways of how you can love yourself more. And siguro, mahirap yun i-comprehend for a lot of people kasi parang feeling mo pag you're loving yourself too much, you're indulging yourself or you're spoiling yourself.
Ganun.
Oo, ganyan. Pero, di ba, parang if you're drinking water, that's you saying na kailangan mo ng tubig. Di ba? That's you loving yourself. That's a simple act of showing yourself na magtubig ka. Di ba? And sana you take that away also na parang these tiny things, even if they feel like parang ang basic lang nila, basic naman yung pagmamahal sa sarili mo Bakit natin dinideny yung sarili natin nun? There's this one moment, like I think a week after I resigned. Just parang all of a sudden yung lunch ko libre. Usually kasi working lunch yan May Viber, may Zoom, may chine-check ang deck. And the first time, I was like, ano yung feeling na magla-lunch ka, tas nag-lunch ka? Like, nag-lunch ka, tas natikman mo yung kanin, tsaka yung ulam mo. Tas parang, mamaya, umiyak ako. Like, parang, why am I crying over tinola? Like, kasi parang, I haven't enjoyed my lunch for a long time kasi it's always like, other people's agenda, other schedule, another deadline. Parang, others. Like, parang, it's always so easy to forget about us and prioritize other people. And even the simple thing of, like, drinking water is like, I remember you, kailangan mo uminom, kailangan mo ng tubig. So, sana, uminom kayo ng tubig. Don't forget to love yourself. Kasi at the end of the day, kung minamahal niyo yung sarili niyo, I think you can be present to other people and be present for your work more. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and your insights. Siguro, if you're talking to someone right now, look into the camera, and there's a creative who's barely hanging on, and they come across you in this video, what is that, like, one thing that you would want to share with them?
I think when you're already at that point, and this is something that I tell to myself, is that it's never too late to change things. It's hard to do it, but don't allow yourself to be defined by things that happened in your past, things that you've done, mistakes. And if there's anything that we've learned today, is that these little things that you can do for yourself, by taking that first step and allowing yourself that kindness, that space, and as much as you would allow it for others, is extremely important for your good mental health. You try to speak to yourself. Merong trend ngayon on TikTok about like speaking to your younger self or speaking to your younger
I
child.
met with myself.
Exactly.
Coffee for ganyan.
And you notice the language that you share a child or tell a child na parang, it's okay, kaya mo yan. Or when they're first starting to walk, you can get up again. It's so hard to say it to our own selves. Which is why you want to practice that act of radical self-care. It doesn't even necessarily have to be about waking up really early in the morning if that's not your vibe. Knowing who you are and starting to listen to how you speak to yourself and treating yourself with kindness like you would to a child is one of the most important things that you can do for yourself. And kayang-kaya mo yan, and you are so worthy of love, care, and respect. And if it's hard and it's difficult, you can always talk to an expert.
If you're at that point that you feel like you need help, then you need to seek help. As much as it's great doing things alone, we even have a term called DIY, doing it yourself. It's really great to be able to do things on your own. But if you feel like nothing's working and you need help, then seek help because help is out there.
Thank you. Hindi ko alam kung paano pa i-wrap up ng episode na to kasi ang dami nating na-unpack, ang dami nating na-touch on na topics. And I think, regardless kung creative ka or maker ka or may business ka, I think this episode has been very helpful. An eye-opener siya, regardless kung anong stage or career ka in your life. And sana nakatulong to sa inyo. And again, I want to mirror yung sinabi ni Alan and ni Kat na, you know, when we're having difficulties, we always feel like pasa natin ang mundo and tayo dapat yung magsusolve nun. But I think care and connection, community, those are the things that you can surround yourself with so you don't have to do it alone. If ever you find this episode helpful, if you know anyone who might be needing of this help, sana you share this episode with them also. And if kailangan talaga ng tulong, again, please don't hesitate to seek out help, whether it's with your friends or with your family or your community or getting an expert. There's nothing wrong in seeking help and you'll be better for it. So, thank you again. Kat, I know na, can you share if they do need help, where can they find MindNation? How do they connect with you? What are the type of services that they can try if they do need help?
I know that I think through this episode as well, we will be giving out to some of their listeners and people viewing the free sessions also. Maybe the details will be shared later on. But if you are in need of help anytime, MindNation is here for 24/7. We have an app, MindNation app, available on Google Play and App Store. We also are available 24/7 on Facebook and Instagram. You can just chat with us anytime. And if you are an employee or even a leader, please push to advocate for mental health programs in your team. It is not only part of the law, but it is also very, very important when you really want to have that comprehensive healthcare and push for more productivity, more creativity, and a healthier workplace culture. So I would encourage everyone to be advocates for their own mental health and for others as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Please drink your water after this one.
And cry over
Yeah.
tonight.
Okay lang, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel your feelings. Thank you again for joining us for this episode. Sana nakatulong yung episode na to sa inyo. If there are certain topics that you also want us to cover in this channel, please leave a message on comment section below and we'll try to see how we can make that happen. See you in any of our stores. We have branches in Power Plant, UP Town Center, Alabang Town Center, Ayala Bay Malls, Manila Bay. And here you can make and distress and make a mess here in Atrium of Makati in our mess studio. Thank you. See you.